Hello, everybody. My name is Wally,
I'm Jason.
and we're back again for another episode of Checkride Chat. Today, we're going to talk about something that we see on pretty much every check ride, and we're going to talk about cross-country planning. So, Jason, what you got something for us?
This is a safe space. We may agree, we may disagree. I'm under the contention. I'm a proponent when it comes to cross country flight planning. It drives me, and we talked about it, I think this last time. It drives me batty when they use ForeFlight, but they don't know how to use ForeFlight. So they use it to plan our said cross country, and it takes all of 3 minutes to do it versus a paper flight plan. I don't care if you use ForeFlight, but using ForeFlight and then transposing things onto paper, that's one way to do it. So that's fine. However you want to flight plan, you flight plan. The thing that drives me crazy, A, if you use ForeFlight, you don't know how to use it. B, how they're doing flight plans is you're coming to a check ride and everybody's like, well, you need to see dead reckoning and pilotage. Fine, we can still see it with what I'm about to tell you, but also we're going to use it when we quote unquote divert you. That's pilotage, that's dead reckoning. So my cross countries, again, I live in Houston, work in Denver, so a lot of my cross countries are long. So I'll have them flight plan up to Denver, I'll have them flight plan, if I just was on a trip, I'll have them flight plan where I just went, because why not, right?
Right.
But where I'm going with this is they'll do these flight plans and I'm using a power line, I'm using a road, I'm using a tower, right? Well, if you've been to Texas, there's towers every 30 feet. So how do you know what tower that is?
Right.
But the bigger kicker is this tower, this road, this power line is right next to an airport. It's right next to a VOR. It's right next to some prominent landmark. So they will have 1,000-mile cross country with literally 150, 200 lat long points, right? So it would be easier to show you with a map, but those lat long points are literally a beam an airport. They are a beam a VOR. So my question is, how do you put that in your GPS? If you're telling me you're about to go do this 1,000-mile cross country, and you have this beautiful G1000, you have a 650, whatever, 430, doesn't matter. How are you going to put that into your GPS? So you talk about ultimate situational awareness. That is that. Right. Some very smart people, well, I have flight stream. Cool. That it's just going to take everything off of ForeFlight. That's what I'm going to follow. So I would much rather you go direct to an airport and do checkpoints rather, on the way to that. So how do you put this in your GPS? I'm going to go to this airport, then this airport, then this VOR. That is going to be very simply how you can put it in a GPS, which leads to another question. That's what's called your route of flight. Right. So if you look at a flight plan, it's going to ask for a route of flight. So if you're zigzagging all over the place, you can't put 1,001 checkpoints, lat longs, in a route of flight. They're going to want to know, I'm going to go to Huntsville, to Leona, to Waco, to Dallas. The lake on your left, they don't care about that. That's in between 2 points. That I would say it's easier to show you. Like I could show a flight plan very easy. I hope I'm making myself clear. There's no reason to lat long a beam an airport. Just pick the airport. Pick the VOR. Don't pick something 10 feet away. Right. And a lot of times I'll hear, well, I can't see it out my window. You're over an airport at 5,000 feet. Just, there it is. Just look out the side of you're still over it, right? One of my huge questions on a check ride, on a private and a commercial for that matter, instruments a little bit easier in that sense, is why are you flight planning? What is the purpose of doing this? And a lot of the times, more often than not, they'll say, my instructor wants to see that I know how to flight plan. Great.
Yeah.
What is a flight? What are you going to do with that flight plan?
Yeah.
And so inevitably it'll come up, how do you file this flight plan? And they're like, oh, for flight. I say, go press to file. I say, great. Where does that go? And they go, I don't know.
Right.
Like, fine. So you file this VFR flight plan. You take off, we're just going to use the home base Conroe. You take off out of Conroe. Wally, how do you open your VFR flight plan?
Well, you call flight service.
Well, you know that.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, what do you think I hear?
Call tower.
Call tower. I'm going to get flight following.
Yeah.
Flight following is not opening a flight plan.
Right.
Two very, very, very different things.
Right.
So
I got from someone on one time on a Checkride. I need to call U.S. Customs, and I said, okay, how you going to do that? He said, well, I'm going to call him on the phone, and I said, well, I'm thinking, well, this is weird. I said, well, what's the phone number? He said, well, I'll Google it. And I said, okay, well, why don't you Google it, and I'll go use the restroom and grab a cup of coffee. And 10 minutes later, he still didn't have a number. But when he came back for his recheck, he understood how you do that.
So just because you said customs or what it was, so if you actually look up the flight plan form, which instrument pilots are typically good. If you have to file a pop-up, that's how you read your flight plan. That's how center wants it, type thing. A lot of centers will be like contact flight service anyway because they're too busy to deal with it. So now you got to call up flight service, file the flight plan, then you have to call approach, departure center, whoever, to now open up said flight plan. So instrument people are pretty okay with it. But on the flight plan you have VFR, so you have to select what flight plan you're filing. So VFR, IFR, and Delta D VFR.
Oh, day VFR. Right.
Day VFR. That is absolutely not what that means.
Yes.
So there are three. So this is what we're getting at. We see applicants all the time. Here's my flight plan. They have no true idea why they're doing a flight plan. They don't know that you have 30 minutes upon landing to contact the local flight service station to close the flight plan. You can call in flight. We can close the flight plan. Airport's in sight, I'm 10 miles to the west, Llano's in sight, whatever it might be. So you close the flight plan. If you don't close the flight plan, that's kind of the purpose of filing a flight plan. Short cross countries, I get it. Long haul cross countries, that's a very real thing. Another DBE a long time ago explained to me how she put it was, all right, you're going to meet your mom. You tell your mom, all right, it's a 4-hour flight. We're going to land at 2. So there's mom at little, Podunk Airport in the middle of nowhere, and 2 o'clock rolls by, 2:15, 2:30. There's no Wally, no Jason. So old mom goes up to the FBO. My son is a pilot. Ma. And so the FBO is like, what do you want, old lady? Right? You're bugging me. I'm Netflixing here. Like, go away.
Right.
The whole takeaway was, well, my son said he's supposed to be here at 2 and he's not here. So now she calls 911 or the local cops. My son's a pilot. Here we go. So they'll say, call in 24 hours, 48 to file a missing report, missing person report, meaning you're in a tree, hanging upside down because something bad happened. Or you wait 30 minutes, and that's kind of the big takeaway. Flight service, now, if you look at a flight plan, it says destination contact. They're going to call your phone number. You don't answer. They're going to call the airport. Airport's going to say, do you have 123 Alpha Bravo on the ramp? Nope, don't see it. They're going to then go see if you got flight following. And basically, search and rescue is... They're on their way. They're coming to save the day. They'll divert. That's the Civil Air Patrol. That's why you see them at the airports. They practice all the time. They will divert military aircraft on training missions. You are now going to this lat long. Look for wreckage, right? There's a whole reason of why you're doing a flight plan. It's not just because you know how to use an E6B. Right. So there is a method to the madness, and typically the older guys... Wally's old. I'm not old. Wally's old. But if you've trained the old way, we didn't have all this stuff back in the day. So
Yeah.
I use that example too. I'm on the middle of a route. I need weather. ADSB in has failed. All you have is primitive stuff. I need weather in Denver.
Yeah.
You're in Dallas, Texas. How do you get that?
Right.
And then I'll call I'll call them up on my phone. You're at 7,000 feet.
Yeah.
There is no calling anybody.
Yeah.
And the answer is look up, call flight service.
Yeah.
Where do you find the flight service frequencies? Look for VORs.
Yep.
These are all, everything is built, everything has a background.
Yeah. My thing about VFR, planning your checkpoints for a VFR flight plan is, first of all, I see applicants that plan their checkpoints way too far apart. When you first start out, first of all, we as an examiner, we have to do for all Checkride, other than add-ons, but let's say private and commercial, we have to do a cross-country portion of the Checkride, and it says that we must look for you. It uses the word checkpoints with an S, so we need to hit at least 2 checkpoints. Okay, I probably hit 3 or 4, but and we have parameters how far away we can be from those checkpoints and how far off on time we can be. So if you pick the first checkpoint that's 75 miles apart, if we start out 3 degrees off, and you can do the geometry or the trigonometry, one of those math things.
Just say math.
Yeah,
just say math.
You know, the farther away you are, the farther off you're going to be. So, you know, your first few checkpoints ought to be close in, like 5 to 7 miles apart from each other. Also, the time to the first checkpoint means absolutely nothing, especially if you're taking off from a towered airport, because
it's a big wag.
Yeah, they may say cleared on course, clear for takeoff. They may say fly runway heading. They may turn you the wrong way. So the time to the first checkpoint to me means absolutely nothing. You think it's going to take 4 minutes, it may take 7 minutes. You're off by 3 minutes at the first checkpoint and you're freaking out. Well, it's no big deal. Now, the time from that first checkpoint to the second checkpoint, that's a valid point. Okay, we're you know, it's supposed to take 5 minutes. We got there in 4 minutes. Okay, well, maybe the winds are wrong. Do I have my power setting?
As to why.
Yeah.
So, is your power correct?
Yeah.
Did tower turn me XYZ? Why do you think we're tracking fuel? If you're a 5-hour airplane and you're topped off, you're only going an hour away, no big deal. But truly, when you start to extend these legs, these routes, the trips, and you start to stretch your legs on these cross countries, like fuel burn another 2 minutes every single fix. Well, guess what you just burned into? Your reserves. There is a method to the madness, and that is to go back to the previous episode, that is the correlation. That's what we're trying to get you to understand.
You know, and at our airline, we try to think of fuel as in minutes rather than pounds or gallons or anything. How much fuel do we have on board? We have 8 hours and 52 minutes worth of fuel on board. How long is our flight? 7 hours. Okay, so it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think of so much. Well, we don't think gallons at all, but we would think pounds of fuel. The other thing about VFR checkpoints is we're talking about, picking what is a good VFR checkpoint. A road.
The Sonic.
Yeah.
Turn it the Sonic. I'm going to turn it Sonic. Don't do that.
Yeah. A road, railroad tracks, or a river, they're not good checkpoints, because when we hit a checkpoint, we're checking 2 things. We're checking to make sure we are on course, we're where we're supposed to be, and we're there at the time that we're supposed to be, which goes back to the fuel thing. If we're 5 minutes late, well, we're 5 minutes down on fuel when we get to our destination. So when I say, okay, we hit the high school football stadium or whatever, we hit the first checkpoint, we're on time. All right, where's our next checkpoint? I-70. Well, I-70 goes from it's 500 miles long. We're eventually going to hit I-70. unless we're way off course. So now I-70 and the town of Jonesville. Okay, now that's a geographical point.
That's a
over
good
the ground.
Which goes back to an airport. That's pretty finite. That's pretty exact.
Yeah.
And as for visuals, big lakes. I want the south end of the lake, the north, the right. I'm going to parallel the right side.
Yeah.
I have this big. I mean, lakes in Texas are massive.
And
a lake could be 10 minutes just to traverse the lake.
And notice he said big lakes. You don't want the little ponds, because in the middle of August, that little pond may not be a pond. It may be dried up. And something else that probably doesn't make a great checkpoint sometimes is private airports. They're really hard to find.
They're actually really difficult.
It's grass.
You actually have to know they're there. You have to see what it is.
If you know they're there, they're there. I use the example of last summer. We did a cross country trip over to New Orleans in my Saratoga just for the day, and I put in ForeFlight. I put in Cleveland, Texas to New Orleans lakefront. 262 miles, whatever. But in my mind, I wasn't going from Cleveland to New Orleans. I was going from Cleveland to Beaumont to Lake Charles to Lafayette to Baton Rouge to New Orleans. I was going from airport to airport. And in my mind...
He was going over I-10.
Yeah, I was.
IFR. I follow roads.
I follow roads.
There you go.
Right. That's right. So anyway, we had somebody ask about cross-country planning, and what is some good techniques for cross-country planning. Another thing, I'll say, where's our first checkpoint? And they'll say top of climb.
That is not a checkpoint.
When you put it in ForeFlight, it's going to come out. It's going to
define where that checkpoint is the point of this.
Yeah, it's going to look like a checkpoint, but top of climb is not a VFR checkpoint.
We'll move on to the next question that was submitted, but when it comes to cross country, Wally picked up on a good thing too. You have to be, if the Sonic is good for you, go for it, but you have to know where that is.
Right.
If I'm assuming you're intimately familiar with your local area.
Yeah.
You have no idea past 150 miles what anything is. So again, those good, solid, big lakes, airports, that's something absolutely defined.
Yeah.
That's a good checkpoint. Like, do not pick, the tower. Again, I get it. If you're local, that's one kid out of here. He was like, it's the dirt yard. So no need to name the school, but it was a dirt pit, and he knew that was there. It was on Interstate 45. Is that on the sectional?
No.
Say no.
Yeah.
No, it's not. So how? I get it. It's there, but you can't cross-check that.
Right.
You have
right.
You have to use the points on a sectional. So we're facetiously saying Sonic because the tower here, a lot of the time they assume everybody is based here. When you're taking off, they say turn left at Sonic.
Yeah.
It's just you talk about a pet peeve, but I disagree. I think it's funny and I giggle when I hear it because I know where it is, but I don't think it should be stuff like that.
I like when I say what's the next checkpoint? He said it's I-45 where it makes a hard left turn. Okay, that's good. That is definable, and it's you can see it on the sectional. So I'm happy with that. But when we just say crossing whatever, that's probably not a good checkpoint.
So we'll go back on that real quick, the 45, and I know we've made fun of that before. I failed an engine one time, and the guy, I said, all right, where are we? Well, it's ABC, right? And he goes, I'm over Interstate 59. Where? He goes, I'm over a gas station on Interstate 59. And I'm like, that's still not good. So it could be anywhere. So no, this go tangent on another day, know your avionics. That is most avionics, most GPSs, you can give a lat long. That is a exact precise location. Yeah. That's for another day.
Yeah.
One question that was submitted was outside time building. So you're out of flight school, and I know a lot of the big flight schools do not allow rental. You can't time build outside of their program, meaning no pleasure flights, no $100 hamburger, no it's Christmas, my family's in town, I'm going to go take them up for a spin, right? You
For
can't,
a ride.
For,
we want to take them for a spin.
Well, if you like them.
Yeah.
If you don't like them, bring the sick bags. So it's outside time building. My initial, when I read that, I said, absolutely. This goes on to, and Wally brought up before we were talking, outside time building. Wally has previous experience on another thing. He called it mission building or mission building,
mission-oriented time building.
Mission-oriented time Same thing. So I would say if you're at a flight school and you go get checked out at another flight school, huge advantages. That insurance checkout, yes, it's an insurance checkout. You need to become proficient. Every airplane acts a little bit differently, right?
Yeah.
So if you're used to a G1000 and this flight school has a six-pack, you need to go get proficient in a six-pack. It's slightly different. I would say it's more avionics than six-pack or G1000, but you need to know how radio works, GPS works, etc. Everything is slightly different, especially when it comes to the older airplanes. So you're going to get checked out by a different CFI, right? A different mindset, different pet peeves, they will have good things, they will have bad things. Well, my instructor says this, it could spur conversations organically off of that one. To parallel that, the mission-oriented time building, a lot of the CFIs, they've got, so mission-oriented, if you're a private, you're kind of working towards your instrument. If you're an instrument, you're most likely working towards the commercial requirements. So reference the FAR aim. What do I have to have? This goes back to the previous episode. Make it defined. Make it very clear. Here's my 5 hours of this, my 10 takeoffs and landings. Make it very defined when it's mission-oriented time building. When you become a CFI, what, Wally, is the next license or rating? What's the next step?
ATP. Yeah.
I'll give you three guesses. Three guesses. Give me the thing that most CFIs are significantly lacking.
It's either cross country or night.
Those are the big ones. Yeah. There's a lot of nighttime and a lot of cross country to hit that ATP.
Right.
So as a CFI, that's now you're actually doing everybody a favor when you're training your privates, your instrument commercials. All these ratings, there is no timestamp on when you can do those.
Right.
It's always the 3 hours within the last, 2 calendar months. But there's no time lapse on that.
Right.
So know your FARs, know what you need, and start working towards that. We have, every now and then, we have time builders. And so my flight school is very, very busy. But the time builders that do come in, my recommendation to the CFIs and the time builders is I tell them to go do what? Go do cross countries at night.
Yeah.
Just start etching away for that mission, for your next rating.
Right.
That's you. If you're working towards things, that's what you need to do.
And, kind of budget. Flight time is a little bit like budgeting. If I know I want to buy something, it costs $1,000, and I don't have any money, and I'm trying to figure out, hey, let me try to get this thing in 4 months. That's about $250 a month I got to put away to buy this thing. If your ATP is an unrestricted ATP is 1,500 hours. I believe it's 100 hours of nighttime for an ATP. So by the time you have 500 hours of flight time, you ought to have about 33 hours a night. 1,000 hours, you ought to have about 66. Now, if you're behind, can you catch up? Yeah, you can. But don't get to 1,400 hours, or better yet, 1,490 hours, and you're 30 hours short a night.
So that's a whole other episode, career advice. So portion it out, section it out. Have a game plan. Have a flight plan on your flight plan. Have a flight plan for your plan for hours. Right. So he's right. That's what you want to do, because when you get to these regionals, one of the well, I do a lot of interview prep and a lot of prep for individuals' next step, going to the regionals, going to the legacies, etc. Yeah, one of the big thing is, do you meet unrestricted ATP? You might have 1,500 hours.
Right.
That does not mean you meet ATP requirements.
Yeah.
So know your flight time, have it defined.
Yeah.
So that's, I would say, the mission oriented. Know your next license, and if you're a CFI, all you're doing is helping your privates, your instrument. Hell, you're helping your CFIs when you're training them. Let's go do this.
Yeah.
Let's go to New Orleans.
Yeah.
Right. Let's go have what do y'all eat in Cajun country? Gumbo. Go to New Orleans for some nasty crawfish. Go eat that. I like the corn and the potatoes. That's all I do.
Yeah. Well, it's an experience. It's not the meal. I don't eat that.
You
I
can
don't
keep
eat
that
it.
experience.
I don't eat it either.
No. Anyway,
Hey.
that's different.
Yeah, and what we say about mission oriented, give yourself a reason to go somewhere, to put a little bit of, I hate to use the word stress, but put a little bit of stress on the decision making. I find the lack of decision making abilities one of the biggest pet peeves of mine with privates, but even more advanced commercial applicants. They want me to make the decision on whether we're going to make the flight. I just had a check ride today where we were taxiing in, and the applicant asked me if I wanted to turn here to go into the FBO, and I said, well, you're the pilot. You're the one that's going to get yelled at.
I did a check ride yesterday.
Yeah.
And he wasn't based here, but he's been flying here for a couple days because he's getting his rating or whatever it might be. And they were using a different runway. And he goes, "Is that where the run-up pad is?" And I look at him. I'm like, I don't know. I'm a passenger, man. Like that is not. Yes, I do know.
Right.
But I can't talk. This is a validation.
Right.
You're the pilot.
Right.
Make the decisions.
Right. I can't tell you how many times I say that on a check ride where they what do you want me to do? And I say, you're the pilot. The other thing is, I hear all the time, are you ready? And my response is always, I was born ready. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm here. Let's go.
So it's in my pre-brief, in my pre-flight briefing. However I say it, I say something to the effect of, I'm going to tell you what to do, like what maneuver I want next, et cetera, but you cannot look at me and say, what do I do now? Or what?
Right.
How do you do this? That's not going to end well.
Right.
So that's not. We are there to validate you. You are the PIC. You're the decision maker.
Yeah.
So you can't really now if it's a real emergency, like no kidding, like all right, my brief is always check right over. We will come together as a crew.
Right.
We will fix it. We will land. We will walk away.
Right.
But other than that, every emergency is in theory simulated.
Yeah.
So that's all in the brief.
Again, if you give getting back to the time building thing, if you have a mission, again, you maybe, and the mission can be as simple as taking your buddy for $100 hamburger 80 miles away. Have you put pressure on yourself? Have you put stress into the situation you have? You've told your buddy that, hey, we're gonna go have lunch down the road.
It's the best hamburger ever.
Yeah.
So make them remember the hamburger, not your lousy landing.
Right.
So
there's an external pressure that maybe there wouldn't be if you were just going to go out and do touch and goes all day long. So yeah, we are a firm believer in flight time outside of the flight training regiment.
So, but we can close with this. Outside time building. Most of, I'm just going to generalize, a lot of flight schools are run, I hate to say it, by a little thing called insurance. So that is cloud limitations, that's wind limitations.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying go do something silly or completely out of control. But if you're checked out at a different flight school, well, if this school is saying no pattern work allowed because it's 15 knots, which that exists, maybe you should go and go up with somebody that knows what they're doing. because it's not always going to be 15 knots when you come
Right.
into land. That's what weather is. So go get your feet wet in a controlled environment, and you might just become better.
The other thing is, there's a couple other things. There are some flight schools that do not allow the students to put oil in the airplane, and
They don't allow them to fuel them either.
They don't allow to fuel
So-
it, and it makes me wonder if, okay, they do take a cross, or let's say they're not planning a cross country or whatever, they end up diverting somewhere. They check the oil and it's down a quart. Well, they've never put oil in an airplane before, and they're intimidated by it. So guess what? They take off with no oil.
And that law of primacy sets in. I'm not allowed to put
Right.
oil in.
Right.
My CFI is that.
Or
I don't know how to fuel an aircraft.
I've never
As-
used self-serve fuel.
Yeah, as silly as it sounds, it exists. So you're a private pilot. You have a license that enables you. I think that's the realization effect, especially at the commercial level. I always try to do that at the commercial level. You are getting paid to safely fly my wife, my kids, my family, everybody else from A to B. You're the one making the decisions. You're the subject matter expert. You
Right.
need to know how to do all of this.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, many schools simply don't allow it.
right.
And I think personally, I think it's a disservice.
Yeah,
So we tend to talk about that in the oral.
yeah.
Just not insurance related aspects, but how do you? What would you do? Walk
Right.
me through it. Things
Right.
like that.
Right. All right, so here's what we're doing. We thank you to Todd from Greenville, South Carolina, for writing in with that question about time building. So here's what we're doing. We've got these really cool Checkride Chat coffee mugs, and this is the 15-ounce one. This isn't the little toy one, the 11-ounce
That'll get
one.
your caffeine fix going.
This will get you going. Yeah, you know, you ever go to a really fancy restaurant where they have a coffee mug that's like 4 ounces, and every time the waitress comes by,
Everywhere in Germany,
Yeah.
everywhere in France,
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
can you spill a little more into my cup, please?
Yeah. So if you write us at Wally@checkridechat.com or Jason@checkridechat.com, either one of us, and give us a show idea, just like Todd did, send us your address, and we'll send you
You'll get one in the mail.
a coffee mug. So again, 15 ounce, and this isn't plastic. This is the real stuff. This is.
So don't
if,
drop
if
it.
I dropped it, it would shatter. So anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Be sure to hit like and subscribe down there. But even better yet, tell your friends, tell your students, and we'll see you next time.
Send your questions.
Bye.
Have a good one.